Live from the LifeWorks Counseling offices in my office at LifeWorks Counseling in Sweet Tea. This is Roe Hunter reporting for an OT episode, an overtime topic for running out the clock sports. Today I'll be talking about MVPs for each team in the SEC. And let's just go ahead and award it to all the players in Alabama. A lot of question marks this year, Roger. Got a lot of holes they gotta fill. Got a lot of people that are gonna bring it. Just shut up. Just enough of it. Enough of it. We're literally going to be talking about the MVPs for every team because I think this year, as good as any, Alabama seems to be on the ropes a little bit. Obviously, they're everybody's number one team. This year, everybody's predicting the number one based upon the talent they have and the roster and what they did last season. But it's a new season. Football is right around the corner, literally 3 or 4 days away as I'm recording this right now. So today, let's kind of jump into it and start guessing who I think are going to be the MVPs, the people worth watching this season. So let's jump into it. I'm going to do these alphabetical order. This has nothing to do with offense or defense. Obviously, there's going to be more offensive players on the list just because offensive people have a little bit more influence on the game, but you can make a very strong argument that some of the defenses in the SEC are the real MVPs, and I'll kind of get to there as we go on. So we're going to do alphabetical order. All SEC teams, and of course we'll start with the people I've already mentioned. Alabama, Roll Tide Pow. Let me tell you what. All right, so Alabama. Sure, it'd be tempting to go with the national championship game MVP, Tua Tagovailoa, but he had some heroics. He wasn't the only Alabama freshman that had a breakout performance that night. I actually like Najee Harris. I think he's going to be really, really good. He carried the ball 6 times for 64 yards in that national championship game, and he was pretty unstoppable. Alabama seems to be their bread and butter. They always have a quarterback that can manage the game. This is kind of the first year I remember where they had a quarterback battle like this, where both quarterbacks are incredibly good. I mean, the Alabamas, when I was in college, and even back then when Nick Saban had just been hired, they had like Greg McElroy, and then they had McElwain and some other Mackle kid or whatever. But this is the first year where they have a legit QB battle where both guys are very, very good. Tua seems to be a little bit better passer. Everything I hear about Jalen is that he's a great leader and he's a clock manager. It's kind of the norm. I think Nick Saban's already made up his mind who he's going to pick to start that game. But everybody's overlooking this Najee Harris dude. I don't hear a lot of people on sports media talk about him. It's hard to pass up a returning 1,000-yard rusher like Damian Harris, but Najee Harris is a special talent. There's always a learning curve for freshmen, but as a sophomore, I just don't see a reason why he won't take that next step. Plus, they have an incredible offensive line, blah, 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 blah. Alabama, Roll Tide, Paul. All right, moving on next, Arkansas. Arkansas, it's kind of hard to find a really good player in their team. I'm picking linebacker Dre Greenlaw. One, I like his name, Greenlaw. I don't know, it's just a cool name. In 3 years, he's established himself as one of the top SEC's defenders. He had a injury-shortened sophomore season, but he put up career numbers in 2017 as a junior. I don't see why he can't repeat that this year. It's kind of going to be like the strength of that Arkansas team. It's been an up-and-down year or career for him, but I'm telling you, he's got one of the best defensive coordinators that in John Chavis this year. That he's probably going to be making this dude kind of the number one every down guy who's going to be a really good anchor for that defense. So we'll see. I had a hard time with Arkansas just because new coaching change, no more Brett Bielema. I don't know what to expect out of Arkansas other than they're not going to be that great. All right, so next up is Auburn. To me, it's got to be the quarterback. We talked about him last week in our predictions for the Auburn game coming up this weekend. Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. He was hyped as all get out since day one arriving from Baylor. And the weird thing about him is that he's kind of actually lived up to the hype thus far. No other player wins a division title, but it's, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. No one player lives a division title, but it's hard to argue that Stidham, he was kind of the biggest factor in turning the Tigers from a mediocre 8-5 squad in 2016 to they won the West last year, which is still weird to me, but they did it. He threw for 3,100 yards last year at 8.5 yards per attempt with an 18-6 touchdown to interception ratio in his sophomore season. Last year he's got a 1,300-yard rusher. He's in the NFL now, and Karan Johnson. They're going to lean on Jarrett Stidham to be kind of the offense. He is an incredible prolific passer, and I just see him adding on to that big, huge number. Look to him to have possibly a 35 to 3,800 yard passing completion this year. Or 3,800 yards total this year. I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words. It's Wednesday. I'm tired. Next up is Florida quarterback. Florida, and I'm picking the running back. Obviously, I can't pick the quarterback because they just announced that it's going to be, I can't ever remember his name. I wish Keith was here to help me out. I think his name is Francois. No, he's at the Knolls. We're not talking about the Knolls today. I think it's Franklin. Anyways, I'm not picking him. I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue for them this year. Dan Mullen has a wonderful ability to take what he's got and win games with not very good talent. What they do have is this guy at running back in Jordan Scarlett, who I think is going to be a household name at the end of this season. He's 2016 was a long time ago for him, but it was a time that he looked like on the verge of becoming that actual household name. He got injured last year. Advanced stats, however, show that he forces missed tackles, and it's hard to bring down and gain. It's hard to bring down and gains a high percentage of his yards after contact with no obvious solution at the quarterback, like I just mentioned. I'm looking at this guy to be their every down back and get ready to say his name a lot and see, him put up big numbers eventually. Next up from Florida is the crosstown rival. By crosstown, I mean legitimately 500 miles away, Georgia. I wonder who's going to be their number one quarterback this year. Oh, there's no debate in this. It's Jake Fromm. That guy was a freshman last year, and he did incredible things. If I'm hyping Jarrett Stidham, Jake Fromm is he's my leading candidate for the MVP of the entire SEC right now. He while sharing the backfield with two 1,000-yard rushers last season. Fromm was only asked to throw about 20% of the offense last year. That equals to 19.4 passes per game. He's going to be asked to do a lot more as a sophomore, and I don't think people should be worried about him at all. I watched his QB1 on Netflix, which is filmed 2 years ago, and it centered around Tate Martrell, who's at Ohio State, and Jake Fromm, and then another guy who went to Wake Forest. But what I saw in QB1 in high school, this kid was already poised to lead a team like Georgia to a national championship as a freshman, and he did. So while his attempts were on the low side for a 14-game starter, he posted a completion percentage of 62.2% at an average of 9 yards per attempt and a 24-7 touchdown ratio as a freshman. Y'all, that's not something to play with. That type of talent, it only comes around every now and then. So I'm envious of Georgia that they get this kid. He's only going to be here for a couple more years, barring injury or whatever. He's a great quarterback. And then they have another guy behind him, too, that is challenging him right now for the quarterback starting job. But it's I don't really believe that. I think Jake Fromm is a lock at starting for quarterback. And honest to God, it's Georgia's turn to defend the SEC crown. With Fromm leading the way, the Bulldogs have every reason to plan on returning to Atlanta this year and have another home field advantage playing in Atlanta for the SEC championship. Next up, Kentucky. Running back Benny Snell Jr. is my pick entering into his junior season. Snell has the chance of becoming a 3-time 1,000-yard rusher. Now, if you don't understand the ramifications of that, let me talk to you about a few people who have achieved that. Number 1, Herschel Walker. Number 2, Darren McFadden. Number 3, Kevin Folk. Number 4, Alex Collins. And finally, Nick Chubb. That's the club that he's about to join. And I don't see why this year it's going to be much different for last year with Kentucky. He was a big reason why Kentucky had a lot of success last year. This dude is going to do it, and he's going to be pretty fun to watch as well. Put simply, if Kentucky is going to be able to go back to a bowl game this year, this is going to be the Anthony Dixon of this team. Yes, I made a 2009 reference to the Mississippi State Bulldogs, which I don't care. I'm a fan. Anthony Dixon was the only reason why we had success in 2009 and the first couple of years of Dan Mullen's tenure at Mississippi State. I compared the Kentucky team for this year coming up in the same boat that 2009-2010 season was for Dan Mullen that long ago. I don't know that Kentucky's going to be great this year, but they have a good enough talent to win the games that they need to. And if they're going to be able to do that, Snell's going to lead the way. All right. Next up is the Swamp Gator music that is known as LSU. And I'm picking my boy, cornerback, Andreas Greedy Williams. Yo, it's about to get greedy in LSU, dog. I am not even playing. SEC quarterbacks, so you're going to remember Greedy. It's a fitting name for him because as a redshirt freshman just 1 year ago, he racked up a conference-leading 6 interceptions. Now, that has everyone's attention now, and he's kind of the cover photo for LSU this year on defense. They also have another guy, Devin White, as a linebacker, but this dude is a sure potential first-round lock 2019, barring any injury, of course, and I hope he doesn't because I love saying this kid's name, Greedy Williams. I imagine he has a personality like Jarvis Landry, and if you've not watched Hard Knocks this year, Jarvis Landry is a fun person to watch. With a name like Greedy, it's probably similar in that. LSU has big holes to fill on offense, and they are a complete crapshoot at quarterback, even though they named their starter. Not because of talent, not because he won the job, but because they don't really have anybody else. So they got Joe Burrow filling that hole, but does it really fill that hole? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Williams and the defense will carry the Tigers this fall if they're going to have any success, but I'm not really seeing them having a whole lot of success. They have the hardest schedule out of anybody this year. And now finally is my beloved Bulldogs of Mississippi State. They're playing Austin P this weekend, or Stephen F. Austin. I think that's right. Yeah, they're playing Stephen F. Austin. That's right. They're playing, they're playing Austin P. I don't know. They're playing some no-name school with the word Austin in it. I don't really care. I'm going to watch, but he's not. The quarterback is not starting this weekend. Nick Fitzgerald, based upon something that happened in March, apparently. Who knows? There's all sorts of rumors out there. But I think he's a big factor. But we see what Nick can do. We got a new head coach in Joe Moorhead. I don't think he's going to be the thing that makes this Mississippi State team tick. Obviously, you got to have good quarterback play to have any type of success. But here's the deal. On defense, Mississippi State returns the SEC co-leader in sacks and tackles for loss in Montez Sweat. And right next to him, down the line, is a guy named Jeffrey Simmons from Noxubee County in Mississippi. And this dude is as country as it gets. And when I say country, all right, I'm talking country strong. He is a man's man. If I had to do something where I needed a person to be moved out of my way and I didn't have that strength and I had to hire somebody to move said person who is bigger than me out of the way, I'm calling up Jeffrey Simmons and being like, hey, pal, you're a big guy and strong as all get out. You remind me of Paul Bunyan's Ox Babe. Why don't you come in here and do babe stuff and move people around? That's what Jeffrey Simmons does. So that's why I'm picking the Mississippi State defensive line as the MVP for them. They are as deep as they've ever been. They got 2 preseason All-Americans on that line and the people that I just named. And there's other guys on that line who are, in the history of MSU, I don't think we've ever had a more deep team at that particular position on the line, on both the end, nose tackles, and everything else, and guards or whatever. It is going to be a great year to watch defense when we've gotten so used to watching good offenses, and finally having that at Mississippi State since I've ever been born. I don't think we've ever had a good offense up until Dan Mullen came in, and that's been nice. I don't see that taking a step back in terms of our offensive play. I just think that this year is going to be a really good defense, and so I'm picking them as kind of the reasons why things are working for Mississippi State. Next up is Missouri. It should be nobody's guess as to who the MVP is going to be this. I mean, come on, don't get cute here. QB Drew Lock, the guy is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. They have a change in coordinator this year, so he might not be putting up 3,900 yards passing again, which is insane. It's amazing how bad Missouri was with him at the quarterback. But look, they got Derek Dooley now. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll put up those numbers, but that's ridiculous. It's just foolish to dismiss those numbers as simply as a product of the scheme. I mean, simply put, you got to be able to throw the ball. That kid threw 4,000 yards. I mean, my God. He's a top-notch passer, and he's a multi-year start in the SEC. They're a long shot in the SEC East because they got a lot of problems on defense, but if anything's possible with a guy like that coming to your team, I mean, yeah, see you playing on Sundays, pal. Next up is probably, if Greedy is my favorite name, this guy is my favorite player to watch in the SEC just because he's so good at what he does. And we're moving on to Ole Miss, the aforementioned Land Sharks, as they are called now. They were the Bears, the Rebels, the Land Sharks, whatever. I don't really care. People get all wigged out about that. I don't give a crap. A.J. Brown. Some Florida fans are predicting a big season for the former Ole Miss wide receiver in Van Jefferson. I think he will. I think he'll be a good. But the reason why Rebels won't really miss that dude at all is because of A.J. Brown. All he did in 2017 was only average 103 yards per game. For many wideouts, 100 yards can be considered a career game. That's the average for him. Brown had 6 games in the triple digits last year. And they have a pretty good quarterback in Jordan Ta'amu. That's how he spells his name, the abbreviations of Texas A&M University. If they can get him the ball, this dude is putting up MVP numbers as also notable mention as the MVP of the entire SEC. But I'm telling you, man, this guy's incredible. I watched him. I watched a lot of Ole Miss games last year just because of him. He's just good. I mean, it's a shame that he's in Ole Miss, but it's still fun to watch him. I think he's incredible. And I mean, he's a big dude. Can you imagine A.J. Brown as a linebacker? I mean, I know Ole Miss has some problems on defense, but, if I'm getting a creative coach trying to keep coach for my job there, Matty Lukey, I might try it, even though he's a specimen. You don't want to injure him and things like that. But, dude, he's 6'4" and huge. Man, he'd be such a good linebacker, but he's an even better receiver. So, exciting to watch. I'm excited to watch him this year. Next up, after Ole Miss, we get into South Carolina. Don't know a whole lot about this team. I know that they have some good wide receivers that are not named Alshon Jeffrey anymore. This guy, his name is Deebo Samuel. As a receiver, returner, and runner, he's an electric with the ball in his hand. He's an electric guy with the ball in his hands. He only played 3 games for South Carolina due to injuries, but still scored 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's Heisman. I mean, think if he kept that pace, right, going through the season. I mean, 3 games and 6 touchdowns. He accounts for 6 touchdowns. That's scary. Basically, if South Carolina wants to have any success this year, I don't know, make him the offense. Don't give it to anybody else. More touches means more production. Put the ball in his hands and good things happen. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try and scheme for him. Just get him the ball, and it seems like you're going to have a pretty good year offensively at least. Tennessee is up next. I mean, it's hard to outshine Josh Dobbs, but after Jennings' famous burn of Florida, where are you at, Keith? Tease Tabor and a Hail Mary heroics. I said that wrong. Tease Tabor. And how he had Hail Mary heroics against Georgia in 2016. This might be considered a repeat bid for Tennessee MVP. Jennings missed most of the 2017 season, but he's back with the Vols this spring, and I just don't see him missing a beat now that he's healthy. When he's on the field, he is the offensive true playmaker. Callaway stepped up for them last season, but this dude is no joke. He's a good. If you haven't seen that play, please go back and look at Tennessee versus Florida. Wide receiver Juwan Jennings. Look him up, dude. It's an incredible play. It's so good. It's the only redeemable thing about that 2016 team. Next up, Texas A&M. I know that they're returning a co-SEC leader, sack leader in defensive end, Landers Durham. But the guy that I'm picking is going to be their running back, Travion Williams. I mean, this dude, he's in the Jimbo Fisher era that is now starting at Texas A&M. The MVP is going to come on the offensive side of the ball. It always does with the Jimbo Fisher team. Williams has the size and speed to be a premier SEC ball carrier, and I look to Jimbo Fisher to kind of make that transition his first year. Jimbo Fisher's a winner, so he's not going to be doing anything kind of crazy at all with the offense. He literally is going to do the same thing that he always does, and he is a running back heavy coach. Don't fool you with old Jameis Winston down there in Florida State. He's going to be using this guy a lot, so he's going to be pretty good. I don't know that Texas A&M is going to have a great year, but we'll see. You never know. And lastly, but not leastly, is the lowly Vanderbilt quarterback Kyle Shurmur. As was the case with picking Locke from Missouri's MVP, you just can't overlook a veteran with multi-year starting quarterbacks. Shurmur has arguably been underappreciated at Vanderbilt, with most of the spotlight going to the former running back in Webb. But he threw for almost 3,000 yards this season. With NFL scouts watching closely, he's going to have to do a lot, and he's going to have to get over the 3,000 yard mark this fall. In my book, if you're a quarterback and you get anywhere around the 3,000 yard marker, you're an MVP of the team. And plus Vanderbilt, the only thing they got going for them is like a good kicking game, I guess. I watched many Mississippi State teams in the years where we had nothing going for us, where the best we could hope for is to have a good kicker, and even then we didn't even have that. So Vanderbilt's going to be pretty bad this year. They're going to have somebody like Kyle Shurmur to have a good year for them to have any success. But Vanderbilt fans, please don't get your hopes up. So that's it. My overall MVP for the league, again, I've already said him. It's going to be Georgia quarterback Jake Fromm. I just think the guy, when I think of a quarterback, I think of him. He is 6'2" or 6'3". He's got the size, he's got the arm strength and accuracy to go with that size, and he's very athletic too. He's not a slow runner. If you watch his games last year, he actually does have ability to make people miss. He's not just a stand in there pro style Tom Brady. He's capable of that, and he certainly can, but he's very athletic. Plus, after watching the QB1, I'm just a huge fan of this dude. He's the exact opposite of Tate Martrell. And if you don't know who Tate Martrell is, either go look him up on YouTube. He's one of the best high school quarterbacks of all time to come out of any high school. His numbers reflect that. He only threw one interception in high school as a starting quarterback, as a senior. That's impressive. But I think for his career, I think it's somewhere around 10 to 12,000 yards, which is just ridiculous. That's just stupid. Granted, he was on an incredible team, and it's not like they were playing terrible talent too. But you compare Tate Martrell with somebody like Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm, he's a Georgia boy. He's backwoods, all this kind of stuff. He's the exact opposite. Tate's he's just kind of a Johnny Manziel kind of quarterback. Not that I'm sure he's going to be electrifying and things like that, but I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to see just a good run-of-the-mill quarterback, I like seeing a Tom Brady dude or trying to think of somebody else right now, a Ben Roethlisberger, just a guy who's going to sit there and pass the ball and be a good quarterback. I don't know. I like watching the Michael Vicks of the world, and I like watching the Johnny Manziels. It's interesting, but if I'm a coach and I'm looking for the next level, if I'm a coach at the next level, I'm not really looking for the Johnny Manziels of the world. I'm not the Cleveland Browns. I would not have taken Baker Mayfield in the first round. I would wait. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. I got to stop myself here just because for the sake of time. But those are my picks. Obviously, let me know what you guys think. If you disagree, agree, whatever. Certainly, we will very much be talking about these as the season goes on. I'm excited about football this year. I don't know, for some reason this year it feels like football has been so far away. Maybe there's been so much controversy and I just need a break from all the controversies that are out there. And I just want to watch football. I cannot wait. This weekend, my wife is out of town. My entire Saturday is going to be spent sitting and watching college football with friends and family and drinking an exorbitant amount of alcohol. So get ready for an exciting time this year. A lot of good players in the league, or in the conference this year, rather. They're not quite to the league yet. But a lot of good players, a lot of exciting players, a lot of question marks all over the Alabama Crimson Tide. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope you are too. Keep listening, like, subscribe, share, whatever you're supposed to say at the end of these things. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to level with you guys. It's hard to end a podcast because part of me just wants to hit the space bar and stop recording. But I also know that you're supposed to say stuff at the end. I don't know. I'll get better as I go. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Yeah, let us know what you think. So sayonara, suckers. Bye.